Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Fast Break. I am 𝗙𝗎 Johnson. We are on episode 12, if you can believe it, and here are the 4 storylines I'm going to be most closely paying attention to this week. 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗶𝗹 defense. Say that 3 times fast. Buzelis had 4 blocks, a season high, on Monday's loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. 3 of those came against 𝗏 Holmgren in a delicious one-on-one matchup in that first quarter. And Buzelis' defensive instincts sometimes kind of outdate his age. I mean, he's really advanced at times with his weak side awareness. He now has 65 blocks on the season. That's a team high. It's 1 more than Joakim Noah in his rookie season, and tied for 8th on the all-time Bulls rookie list. He only needs 5 more blocks to pass Michael Jordan's rookie total and 11 more blocks to enter the top 5. This is all pretty heady stuff for a 20-year-old, and also one who was not heavily in the rotation earlier in the season. I've shared this story before, but my ears were perked pretty quickly with 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗶𝗹 when I sat down with him last summer, shortly after the Bulls drafted him. And he told me he was a big film junkie and watcher, including of old NBA players. And I asked him for a defensive comp, and he said Ondrej Kirilenko. For those youngsters out there, YouTube that guy. He was a bad man defensively. AK-47 was his nickname. He averaged 1.8 blocks in his career. But this all speaks to 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗶𝗹's mindset and desire to be not only an offensive player, but a defensive player. And the Bulls of late have been lacking in two-way players, so this is all good stuff if you're a Bulls fan. I mentioned 𝗦𝗫ce's weak side awareness. I've talked to him about this. He said it's something he feels like he's always possessed, obviously with his athleticism and long arms. That leads to shot blocking as well. Now, is 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗶𝗹 a perfect defensive player? Obviously not. That is a big reason why he was not prominently in the rotation earlier in the season. He has game plan lapses, as a lot of young players do. And I think Billy Donovan has coached 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗶𝗹 pretty correctly, because he has held him accountable at the defensive end. He's actually subbed him out recently in some games where he's had those lapses, and 𝗦𝗫ce 𝗶𝗹 has praised this approach. So this all bodes well for his future as a defensive stalwart. And like I said, the mindset is there. That's the most important thing. All right, storyline number 2. What is up with the Bulls' home record versus their road record? It's pretty wild. We're taping this before Tuesday's home game against the Toronto Raptors. So this is 2 straight potential winnable home games, and they're needed. The Bulls are just 14-23 at the United Center this season. And what's even wilder, they are 500 on the road even after that debacle in Oklahoma City. They're 19-19. That's the 5th best road record in the East. But this home record is mystifying and befuddling, and I've asked Billy Donovan and players about it all season long. Nobody has a very good answer for it. Why is this important? Well, a couple reasons. First of all, it was an organizational emphasis way back in training camp. You heard 𝗵𝗛cį 𝗁𝗏𝗂 mentioned that he wanted to establish a home court advantage and make the United Center a tough building to play in. Billy Donovan has uttered similar sentiments at various times throughout this season. So it's an organizational focus, and the Bulls have still been lacking at home. It does not make a lot of sense. The other reason, obviously, this is important is in the play-in picture. The Bulls have dropped to 10th as of this taping, but if they get back into that 9th seed, they will be hosting the first play-in game as they did last year. We saw 2 years ago when the Bulls finished 10th how difficult it is to win 2 straight play-in games on the road. They won in Toronto in that first game and then lost in Miami in the second game. So obviously putting anything in your favor would behoove the Bulls' chances in that play-in tournament. And I do have some numbers. These are not just limited to home games, but this again emphasizes why the home record is so mystifying. In March, the Bulls finished 9-6, including 3-2 at the United Center, which again is better than how they've played most of the season. And their 9 wins tied their highest win total in a month since the 2014-15 season. For the month, they ranked 4th in points per game, 4th in rebounds per game, 5th in assists per game, 2nd in defensive field goal percentage, 1st in fast break points. In fact, they have 8 straight games with 20 or more fast break points, which is the longest stretch in Bulls history, believe it or not. And they were 1st in points in fourth quarter in the month of March with 32.9. This goes back to that style of play that the Bulls have established all season, where they're trying to play fast, trying to wear opponents down. So why has not that happened much at home at the United Center? Again, players that I've asked don't really have much answers for it. I can tell you, obviously, in that Lakers game, that was probably the most exciting comeback you will ever see in the fourth quarter. So maybe there's some more home success in these last few remaining games and potentially in the play-in tournament. All right, storyline number 3, Dalen Terry. Yes, we've reached the point in the season where we're talking about Dalen Terry and his jumping of Patrick Williams in the rotation. Pretty amazing stuff, quite frankly. Obviously, we've seen Buzelis jump Patrick Williams in the rotation, and now Dalen Terry gets the spot start in Oklahoma City with Kevin Huerter out. Kevin Huerter is due back Tuesday against the Raptors. Dalen Terry also closed the Dallas game over both Buzelis and Patrick Williams. Quite frankly, Dalen Terry has played pretty well of late. Now, he did not play as well in Oklahoma City, but he's shooting 42% on 2 3-point attempts this month, and he's at 37% from 3-point range on the season. That's well above his career mark of 30%. You got to give Dalen Terry a lot of credit for the work he's put in on his shot. The energy defensively has always been there. He's an annoying pest defensively. He likes to pick players up full court. Energy is a skill in the NBA, and that's really the one consistent NBA skill Dalen Terry has displayed in his young career. There's obviously been some lapses with turnovers and fouling, but the energy and the hustle have always been there. If he can get that shot this consistently, he has potential as a back-end rotation two-way player. And I've talked to Dalen Terry about the path for young players and their development. Obviously, all players develop at different stages and ages. Dalen is still only going to be 23 as of this off season. He's very optimistic about his Bulls' future, and I got to admit, I've been probably one of the harder critics on Dalen Terry. I've not always seen his NBA potential and future, but he's proven me wrong of late. I've liked what I've seen from Dalen Terry of late, and again, all credit needs to go to him and the coaching staff and the player development staff for getting the most out of what we've seen from him. Now, the flip side of this is him jumping Patrick Williams in the rotation. Now, Patrick did respond with a solid game Monday night in Oklahoma City, making some shots, but it went beyond shot making. He was more aggressive. He was a no-show in that Dallas game and said as much in a heart-to-heart that he had with Billy Donovan when the team landed in Oklahoma City on Sunday. He told Billy Donovan flat out, I need to be better. So there is at least that self-awareness when he has those disappearing acts, but we're in year 5, and those disappearing acts are still happening. It's really frustrating if you're a Bulls fan, and certainly if you're a Bulls executive who signed him to that 5-year, $90 million deal. So stay tuned on how the forward rotation plays out, but as of now, Dalen Terry is getting as much, or if not more, of a chance than Patrick Williams. I will say, in Patrick Williams' slight defense, which I always say, it does always seem when he finds a rhythm that he gets injured. So let's hope for continued health for Patrick Williams. All right, our last storyline for this week is the potentially imminent return of Lonzo Ball. He will not play Tuesday night against the Toronto Raptors, but he did travel to Oklahoma City, which I was a little bit surprised by, given that it was a back-to-back, and this is obviously part of his ramp-up process and his ability to now start taking contact in scrimmage situations. He's been working with the player development coaches. He is still experiencing a little bit of pain with his follow-through on his shot, which is why we have not yet seen him in the lineup. But there are some who have asked me, like, why doesn't he just shut it down? Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, he wants to get back, obviously. He's missed, as we all know, an incredible amount of time, and it's pretty wild that he's enduring this significant wrist injury this season. After all, he's endured with that left knee. The left knee still is fine, knock on wood for Lonzo Ball and the Bulls. But the wrist has been troublesome all year since he injured it pretty severely in that early season game in Memphis, and then obviously re-aggravated it as of late. But more importantly, Lonzo Ball coming back at this time would be fantastic for the depth and for the IQ, especially as you enter critical seeding games and play-in tournament games. I mean, he just impacts the game positively at both ends more often than not. So I know that Billy Donovan and the coaching staff eagerly await his return if he's able to do so. And his window for potential return for availability opens with that Friday home game against the Portland Trail Blazers. Again, Josh Giddey's been playing at a high level. Coby White's been playing at a high level, but the Bulls need all the help they can get as they enter the closing games of the season and potentially that play-in tournament. I know Lonzo himself is very eager to return, so let's hope that Friday is that night. And if that happens, we will be on top of it as usual, and we will also be monitoring other storylines as we prepare for another episode of the Fast Break next week. We certainly appreciate you checking out this week's, and we'll catch you next time.